Okay. Lo and behold, as promised, I am going to deliver. Here we go. For those of you who came in late, I have posted, and when I'm all done, I'll show you the schedule. This was the last class. We have 2 more weeks left, though. We have 2 weeks of final exam. Some of you will be taking it. When is the final exam for this class, actually? Huh? The 28th. 2-0? Oh, the 20th. Is that next Wednesday? The exam for this class is next Wednesday. Isn't it? Wow, it's coming up soon. So you have all weekend to study. Actually, you have a week from today to study for this. But as I mentioned earlier to those people who were here on time, this exam came out relatively easy. But sometimes when I think something is easy, doesn't necessarily mean everybody else thinks it's easy. So what I've done is and we've had a lot of lectures so far, so what I've done is I've kind of gone lecture by lecture and outlined, and I'll tell you everything you need to know. So if you take notes or listen to me or listen to this again on the YouTube or whatever, you can find out everything you missed if I talk too fast. What did she say? You could rewind it like 10 times, and then you could use it for evidence against me. I thought you told me this wasn't going to be on there. Yes, it is. All right, so it's 25 questions, multiple choice. And as I mentioned before, this one came out nice, although it is heavy on the second part of the course. I will mention that. I'm not quite sure why. It just kind of ended up that way. All of the questions are select 1, which means you don't have to worry about multiple select. If you've taken any of my other exams in the past, multiple selects are a murder. This is just pick the best answer. So what do we got? What do we have? 25 multiple choice questions. Here we go. Obviously, the concept of software engineering and is engineering a software and engineering principle is going to be covered on the exam. There's at least one question out of 25 on here. It's going to be related to that. And what I've put in here, and these are not the questions. These are not the questions that are going to be asked. These are questions you should ask yourself. And this particular Word document is posted on the internet, so you can, it's posted at bhacker.com, so you can actually look at it. It's called Final Exam Review Doc, and I'm going to put this recording right underneath it, so you can kind of go along with it. But usually as I go through, I see stuff that I missed. So this is why you're here, actually, so that you can actually see what I missed, which is a good idea. So, all right, there's still room. Hello, dude. Oh well. And this is also your opportunity to ask questions. You can say, or you can ask, is software architectural design on the final exam? And I'll say yes. All right, so let's get back to, as another side note, although I know some of you have gotten the supplementary textbooks and have purchased or have used the optional textbook for this course, and the optional textbook for this course was the Pressman book, I think, a software engineering practitioner's approach or something of that nature. None of the questions come out of the book. All of the questions come out of the lecture notes. And hopefully you guys can all find the lecture notes. And I've actually put which lectures have which content in them. So if you pay attention, I'm going to give you all the answers. Well, I'm going to give you all the questions. And for this particular exam, there's 5 different forms because we have 300 and something students in this class, although not all of you are here today. We have 5 different versions of it. And I did the same thing I did for the, what did I have? The Java, Object-Oriented Design in Java, which is also a big class. I have 5 questions that are the same on all 5 versions of the exam, although they're mixed up. They're in different orders. And then 20 questions on each one of the exams are different. Of those 20, there are some similarities between the different versions, but they're all in a different order. And there are some questions that only appear on one exam only. So if you have friends, I should probably take out, I have the form numbers in the top. I probably should put a code up there, make all the codes unique. What I'm trying to say is you can't cheat on this exam. It's totally impossible to actually cheat on the exam. It is multiple choice, and it's only 25 questions. So hopefully if you take an honest approach to it, and you are able to study up for it ahead of time, you won't have to resort to cheating. But after giving this exam at ITU, very often what ends up happening is we have students who feel the need to cheat. Anyone who is caught with notes will have the exam taken away, and they'll receive 0 credit on the exam. So no cheat sheet notes. You're not allowed to bring any paper in. You're not allowed to bring anything but a pen. Please also bring your student ID. What did you mention? Did you mention something? Good? No. Okay. Also, if you don't have a student ID, don't send me an email message to tell me that. Instead, don't worry about it. If you have like a receipt or something that has your name on it, or a library card from the San Jose State Library or something, or you have something, an ID, so we can check you off on the list. Maybe a driver's license, maybe not, maybe an ID card, something, essentially, because only one person can take one exam at one time. So we can't have one person coming in. The reason why I mention is I've actually had this happen, how sad, but I actually have had one person come in and take like 5 exams. I'm like, didn't I just see you earlier? And oh no, I'm now this name. Oh no, now I'm this name. Like, all right, so we are sort of checking IDs on this too. And your name is actually on a calendar in a time slot, hopefully by your last name. However, if you don't like your time slot, you can send me a message, and I can move your time slot to a different one. So that's flexible. All right, so let me go back to bullet point number 1. The concept of software engineering and engineering discipline, what is it trying to accomplish in terms of all the things that were discussed in lecture number 1? Is it a true engineering field? What is meant by software and systems? This is actually kind of a review of software engineering 1. What does it mean to craft a software project? Who are the players in software engineering? There's no questions about project managers. There's no question about project management at all, actually. But we do have the players. We also have assignment number 1 that dealt with the software development lifecycle and common software development techniques and practices. So this is the other interesting part about this particular exam. I tried to pull concepts out of the assignments that you had. So I believe you had, 5 assignments in this class? People shaking their heads, yeah. Hopefully it was 5, not 6. It was 5? 5, that's what I thought. I pulled and I put in the outline here what comes out of it, because the testing is coming out of the lectures. It's also coming out of those 5 assignments. None of the questions are coming out of the software engineering notes from the first course, if some of you actually use that for some of the testing, for some of the QA questions and stuff. So the assignment number 1, this also gives me an opportunity to review the assignments that we went over. Had you think about the development process, what kind of methodologies you'd take, what kind of approach would you take in terms of building the system in stages or in development process, and which kind of lends itself into the pattern of the questions that happen. The questioning is very abstract. There is only one right answer, and I'm looking for the question actually that pertains to this particular item. I have an exam right here actually, but you can't see it. Here's the question. Here's the question. Oh, now it got quiet. Well, on this particular form, it's not number. Well, I'm not going to tell you what number it is. In software engineering, a software process is A, B, C, D, E, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read the questions here. That's the question. So the nature of the questions, to give you an example so you know exactly what to expect, is very abstract. It's getting at, in this particular question, which is the question on this particular exam that was being asked for this first bullet point, it's getting at, do you know what a software process is? And without giving the entire example away, I can tell you there is clearly only one correct answer of all of these choices, and the choices actually get into concepts of programming, concepts of software engineering, concepts related to inputs and outputs and executable code and a bunch of other stuff. So it's related. It's not like it's a wall, it's a brick. It's actually related to software engineering, so it's not that easy. However, it is what I'd call one of the easier exams I've ever written. So I did give you a break that way. Questions about lecture number 1? You can ask them now, or you can wait till the end as well. But that kind of get into the broad stuff. If you remember, in lecture number 2, unless I hear something, I'm just going to move right along. In lecture 2, I talked about the business aspect of software engineering. And we actually had some supplemental lectures to that. One was on software costing and estimating resources. The other one was on things related to consulting, things related to the business. And in terms of what the lecture is, the typical software engineering business models, meaning the working for somebody else, building it yourself. Lecture 2 really kind of got into some of the nitty-gritties in terms of the business model. The package with modifications as an example, the pre-packaged system. If you remember during that lecture, I talked about building one program and selling it to 20 different people, 20 different companies, just packaging it under a different name. And then the business owner, the person who wrote the software, actually owned it, not the people who were using it. So the concept of licensing software, reusable components actually kind of fits into this concept as well. Using open source, using pre-compiled code that's maybe proprietary that you have licensed inside of your code. So those are the kind of the different scenarios that involve the business aspect in terms of lecture 2. What did I leave out? Package with modifications, packages without. The lecture actually talked about outsourcing, insourcing, and self-sourcing, I believe, as well, in terms of concepts. Meaning, are you going to build the whole thing yourself? You're self-sourcing. You're going to hire software engineers to actually, you're going to hire programmers to actually write the code. You're going to do all of the development. You're going to run through the entire methodology on your own, essentially. Or are you going to do part of the development in-house, and then you're going to outsource the coding part? Or maybe you're going to outsource the testing part. Or maybe you're going to outsource the project management or something of that nature. So those different configurations, believe it or not, were also covered. The business of freelance software development as well was also covered. And this is one of those questions in which there's about 4 or 5, I can't remember, different variations of questions that get along the business aspect. And they're of the 20 randoms. So you may or may not, if you're lucky, well, actually, I think these questions are probably pretty straightforward. If you're lucky, you'll get an exam that has 5 of those questions on it. If you're not lucky, maybe you'll get in that won't get any of the questions on business aspect of software engineering. I'll tell you which ones you're going to get. You're definitely, all of the exams have the first lecture on it. Every exam form is going to have something about the software engineering process and the development process. And every exam is going to have something, no, not every exam is going to have anything about business aspect. That one's kind of luck of the draw. What did you get on that one? And this particular one does not have any questions. This is Form A, actually. Oh, bummer, I told you which form it was. Now you can we get Form A? All right, no, I won't do that anymore, but I already know it. All right, now I'm going to rotate the form number, so this won't be Form A anymore. But this one doesn't have anything on it, so I can't give you any examples. As I mentioned before, there's nothing on project management. Absolutely nothing. So you don't have to worry about project management. In fact, I didn't cover the lecture probably because you didn't want me to. You don't even look, and that's good. Somebody in the class said, "Oh no, project management is boring. I don't want you to cover that." Well, now you're looking at me. So I skipped it. I didn't cover it. Bummer. No, not really. Actually, you're right. It is boring. It has nothing to do with software engineering. So, well, it does sort of, but not really. Anyway, let's get back to what's really on the exam. My favorite topic is definitely on the exam. The exam will cover the legal aspects of software engineering, which is lecture number 4. That will be on the exam. I guarantee it. Every exam will have a question about the legal aspect of software engineering. Yes. In fact, you want to know the differences between intellectual property, copyright, patents, and trademarks. Not by, definitional. You don't have to study this entire area at all. But it would be nice to have something in terms of a concept. Also, the concept of the software license agreement in terms of what it's doing. And the purpose of what it's doing, oh, here comes the last people, is that it's providing a means of distributing the software. And when you're distributing it, you're not actually selling the software, you're licensing it out so that people can use the software. However, if something happens with their system crashes, something, they lose all their data, the company's not responsible because the customer doesn't actually own the software. So the whole business about the software license agreement, as well as the concept of privacy. Privacy in the workplace was also covered in that particular lecture. Privacy in terms of privacy protection, in terms of, well, this is more along the lines of copyright. If you remember what I told you about the software copyright, you're hired on, you're a contractor, you're working for a company, as an example, and you create something that's brand new that doesn't exist and that you think you own, but you did it on the company dollar. So then you have the issue of, do they have access to it? Do they have privilege to it? Do they have the right to take it away from you? Who owns it in terms of that? And actually, believe it or not, in that particular case, the company owns it. You don't own it. And the right of privacy was also discussed in terms of, let's say, email, work products. This is, in terms of this legal aspect of software engineering, the company actually owns everything that happens on the computer. So you write an email message to your friend about your vacation plans, and somebody reads the email, and you say, whoa, that was my personal private email about my vacation plans. Now, who cares? Or you badmouth the boss or something, and you get fired. You can't sue for wrongful termination because they own that email, essentially, which is most of the second part of that particular lecture got into those privacy issues. If that is brand new to you and you don't know anything I just said, then I would highly recommend downloading and looking at it. It is lecture number 4. And the concept of ownership when it comes to the source code and the work that's created on the job is definitely, I want to say, on every one of the exams. Because, those people who know me know this is my favorite topic. So, of course, I'm going to put it on every single one of the exams. In fact, you might even see it twice on every one of the exams. So that's the interesting thing you learn about teachers when they like something. They always use it over and over again. I like that topic. So I wish I could teach a legal class here. That would be fun, actually. Exactly. What's an example? Oh, you want an example? All right, let's do an example. That's why I say this is your opportunity to ask questions. And his question is, can you provide an example? All right, let's see. As I said, it's on every single exam. Here's the business aspect. No, let's see. We have 1. 2, I like this one better. A software license agreement allows the customer to ... A, B, C, D. That's an easy question. That's why I read that one. And I told you needed to know what is a software license. I actually gave you the answer. Use it, but they have the license or privilege to use it, but they don't own it. And actually, sometimes it's against the law to actually modify software that you have a license for. If you're found to have modified it for any illegal purpose or anything that was unintended by the original developer, you could be held liable for anything that you did with that software, especially if you redistributed it out and somebody else used it. So you're not actually allowed to modify it either. So you're allowed to use it in terms of... And actually, sometimes the license agreement, and you want to know past, we're just allowed to use it. You also want to know, well, it can be used on so many different computers. I mean, just because you bought one copy of Microsoft Office, does that mean you can install it on everybody's computer at this university? No, Microsoft would have a problem with that. You violated your license agreement. So you don't have to know the specifics of what the license agreement actually outlines, rather the concept. And the other concept, you want to know, what is a copyright, what is a patent, what is a trademark. And that you probably should know anyway, because you're going to hear those words used a lot, and it's basic vocabulary. especially out here in Silicon Valley. It's basic knowledge, essentially. So you're going to want to know that anyway. And Lecture 4 has a really good outline of all that stuff. Any more questions about Lecture 4 before we continue? I saw the WASP people show the door, but they never came in. I'm so disappointed. I thought they were going to join us. But I guess this room doesn't really lend itself to inviting. When you look in from the window, it looks kind of weird. So it looks like a narrow hallway. All right, now you guys are in a hurry. Let me continue. All right, the concept of the feasibility study. I'm losing them already. There goes the one. Bye. Okay. All right, moving right along. Lecture number 5 talked about the feasibility study. And the feasibility study that relates to software development. Also, assignment number 3 talked about the feasibility study and had you actually kind of put one together in terms of the components that go into it. So it dealt with the feasibility studies. The feasibility is generally the first step in the decision of whether or not you're going to build a software project. It's getting kind of loud out there. Hello? I can't talk over all of you. Okay. From the feasibility, the team works towards the requirements gathering, hopefully, and it's the first step. So it determines the feasibility of how the concepts apply to the risk management, how they're important to know, things of that nature. So the big question is, what do I need to know about feasibility study? Well, what it is in concept, what it's used for, when it happens in the life cycle. It's the go or the don't go in the software. And some of the considerations that you had to put into that assignment. So in the assignment number 3, that actually dealt with the concept of developing it and thinking about some of the questions that go into it. So in theory, the questions are kind of abstract in nature. It's not like defined feasibility study. It's more along the lines of, and I'm looking for a question right now. This is one of the optional. This is not on every one of the exams. Is it on this one? Let's take a look here. I didn't actually see one yet. I might not actually have no. Oh, that's reliability. Let's see. We've got reliability coming up. I know where that one is. No, I don't think this particular Form A does not have a feasibility question on it. But it is one of those optional 20s that you're going to get. So maybe your exam will have one, maybe it won't. So it's getting kind of loud again. Any questions on feasibility before we move on? You see that you guys are, it's the attendance roster. Yes, please sign the attendance roster as it's going around. I know that's what you guys are all talking about. All right, moving right along. And I'm going through this kind of slowly because we covered a lot of topics. All right, so assignment number 2 dealt with risk and risk management. Number 3 was feasibility. Number 1 was software development. So in assignment number 2, and I know there's a risk question on every one of the exams, so risk is one of those things you're going to want to be familiar with. And what we're looking at is identifying potential risks, and planning how to plan to manage problems as they arise when they become a reality. Risk assessment plans and processes. Hello? Hello. No direct questions about a risk plan. So you don't have to know what goes into a plan, and you don't have to know the format of the plan or anything about that. I would know what a risk is, how risk assessment should be performed, when it should be performed, maybe some of the generic ways in which it is performed in terms of looking at problem areas of the software, how risk assessment deals with reliability and dependability as a concept, because those terms are related, and the questions will relate them. So I'm telling you specifically that risk is related to both reliability and dependability on the exam. It's not going to be as easy as, what is risk assessment? Because you should hopefully know what risk assessment is in terms of a risk. And I can't read you this question because it's going to give it away. But I'm looking at the question right now, and there's absolutely no way I can word it to not give it completely away. And I think I've given enough so far. So I'll leave that question out. And I do see there's actually 2 risk questions on this version. So it is one of the main 5, and it's also one of the optional ones too. So, and when I say optional, it's one of the ones that are going to show up randomly. Questions about what you need to know about risk assessment and risk plans. I can't give you I can't read the question out of the exam. It's not going to work, right? All right. Well, I can't read you this one because it's a true-false. And by the way, we actually have some true-false. Let's see. Let me look at the second one here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is a good one. This is an excellent one, actually, because I just talked about this today. So if you were here for the earlier part, you know what this relates to, hopefully. It's question number, well, I'm not going to give you the number. All right. Here it is. Here's your give me question. You're not going to get it because even if I gave you the question, you're not going to get it. Risk assessment is most emphasized in which of the following models? No, actually, waterfall is not one of the options. I actually mentioned it briefly when I talked about risks earlier in that lecture I just gave you. If you actually look at that, you got the answer. For those of you who are paying attention, I gave you the answer to that question. I'm sorry? I can't give you the answer right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Lecture number 11 I just covered before you walked in. It talked about component-based and reusable software. No, it's just 11. There's no A. No, is it 10 or 11? I think it was 11. There's no A or B associated with it. It's just 11. It dealt with different types of models, and in one of them in particular, I said that the risks, it helped, or there was a problem with it or something. I can't remember what I said about it on purpose. Yeah, you remember. You remember. I just don't let everybody else know. I remember too. All right. That's excellent because this is your opportunity to ask questions as well about the content of the exam. Any more questions on risk assessment plans? Any type of development processes or models or anything in terms of risks? Nope. Okay, moving right along. What is meant by software reliability lecture 6A? And as I already mentioned before, reliability, dependability, actually safety is also built in to a series of questions. And on this particular version, it is both the reliability concept itself is in one of the 20s, optional 20s. Reliability and dependability together, along with security or safety, I can't remember what I used in that question, are in another one that's going to be on everybody's exam. So you're going to see something on reliability, guaranteed. What are you going to see? Let's see. Well, I can't read you the question. It has to do, the one on this exam has to do with software reliability and dependability. I can't read that question, that would be way too easy. So, and this exam does not have the other reliability question, so we're stuck. No questions on that one. Any questions on what is meant by reliability? You can get that at a 6A. It's also a question that was asked on the midterm exam. If you haven't done that midterm exam yet, that is actually due this weekend. Everybody stop, what? The 17th or 18th of April. The 17th of April. The midterm exam is due for this course. For those of you who walked in late, all of the other assignments are due on May 9th. I know you've done them already. And because you've done them already, they're sitting on your system. And now that they're saying, you might as well just upload them as soon as possible. Because you know what ends up happening is if you wait until May 1st-ish, 2nd-ish, May 8th, You waited till the evening of 10 o'clock at night on May 8th to put everything in. The EMS will go down. It's guaranteed. All right. All right. All right, so and I can't mention reliability without talking about dependability, what is meant by software dependability and software security. So software security, not safety, security, and dependability and reliability, hello, are all questions that you should be able to answer in terms of the definitions. 6A and 6B are going to give you the information needed for that. Can you have dependable software that is unreliable and vice versa? And what are some of the characteristics of dependability and reliability? Those are the ones that you essentially want to focus on. And I can't read you the question that is there because it deals with dependability and reliability, and the question itself is going to give it away. So, and it's a true-false question. The ones that have A, B, C, D are easier to read to because it's not a true-false question. So you guys can answer the question verbally if I read it to you. So, questions on dependability, reliability, or safety, security? Security, I meant to say. I keep saying safety. I mean to say security. There is a such thing as software safety, by the way. It's not something we talked heavily about in the course, but it does exist in terms of the concept. And, I forgot to mention this other part of 6C. So 6A, B, C are the three of them. I believe I went over two of the three. I left one out. And I think it was B. I didn't go over it, but it's great reading material. Because if I mentioned earlier, all of the questions come out of the lectures. So if you're going to study for it, you're going to go through the lectures. And you're going to be able to at least go through this list as a checklist and be able to answer these questions, perhaps. If you can do that, you're going to ace the final. In fact, you'll probably finish it in 5 minutes. That's what I'm thinking. So dependability engineering, dependability processes. Only what's covered in the class is the process. In terms of lecture 6C, was not covered, but it overlaps with 6B in terms of the fault tolerance, the avoidance, the error recovery, the types of those particular concepts. I'm not going to ask you what a fault is, or what fault tolerance is, or what a software bug is, or anything. That would be too low level, I think. So the level of the questioning is more a higher level abstracted on the concepts. It's not necessarily like a definitional type of thing. So you can't just memorize the definition of a bug or fault. You probably know that already, hopefully. Hopefully you know that already. So. Questions on the 6A, 6B, and 6C. You are the ones with examples, man. All right, let's see what I can do for you on that one. No, actually, I can't. That's the one I told you. I can't. I can't give you anything on that because those, the both of them that are on here are true-false type questions, and I can't do it. If I read you the question, I'm going to give it to you. So, you don't get anything on that one. Sorry. Lecture 7. Oh, anything else on reliability, dependability, security? No. Lecture 7. 9? Is that no? 9? Okay. German. All right, 7, lecture 7, software testing strategies. Assignment number 5 dealt with testing strategies, and it talked about concepts that go into the test plan. Knowing the different types of testing strategies, unit testing, system testing, integration testing, regression testing, acceptance testing. How many times can I say it's testing? Those are all different types of testing. And the assignment actually kind of made you think about the different types of testing. So you want to know is something about the different levels, the different types. When are they used? When do they fall in the software development life cycle? Any life cycle in terms of the type of testing. As an example, you're not going to do acceptance testing when you're doing the requirements generation. Hopefully not. You might be doing some prototyping, but that's about it. You're probably not going to be doing unit testing when you're doing your requirements either, or during acceptance, hopefully. Hopefully you've done your unit testing already at the implementation point. So thinking about that in terms of the environment, what are they used for? Are they open, closed box, white box, black box, blue box, orange box, top down, bottom up? You guys are listening. Good. Glass box, wood box, carpet boxed. All right, so I can read you a testing one. Oh, this is an interesting one. Unit testing. Unit testing is intended to show that. So know what unit testing is. A, B, C, D, or D, all of the above. Ooh. As a student, I hated those all of the above because one of them, you're like, I don't know. Or the A and B, B and C, but not A. All right, so then that's the testing questions are all part of the optional 20s, which means this particular exam had something on unit testing. One of the other ones is going to have something on acceptance testing. Another one is going to have something on black box or white box or blue box or whatever testing. So you're going to have one different test. That's how I can spread the questions out, actually, and make them unique. They're all on testing, but they're on a different part of it. Any questions about testing? I can give you a question you can't even answer. Not guaranteed to fool somebody. This is for you. What type of testing is most use case driven? I look at the options and I'm like, did I do that right? And then I have to stare at it for a few minutes and I go, oh yeah, I know what that one is. Use case driven. Look that one up. See if you can find the answer to it. Use case driven. All right. Some of you probably will be able to answer. Don't share the answers. I'm not reading you A, B, C, D, E. But one of them does say none of the above. I hate that. All right, so that was Lecture 7. If you're looking for the answer to that question, it's coming out of Lecture 7. That is one of the optional questions, however, which is why I gave it to you. It's not one that's going to be on every one of the exams. So you might get lucky. And I'm going to switch the form numbers around. So A is not really A, because I know you're going to come, oh, can I get Form A? Form A will not be Form A. It will be Form something else. Questions on testing? I can't read out any more questions on testing. I did enough on that. Lo and behold, it takes us to lecture. Oh, we're still on Lecture 7. Security challenges. Oh yeah, the second part of that lecture, the part I forgot when I originally went over it, went over another lecture and then came back to it. I remember that part in the course. Have to deal with security challenges. Hello, software security. Hello, security challenges. And we're having some security challenges here. When it comes to software development and the design of software programs, the end of Lecture 7 is one of those optional questions. I don't actually have anything like that on this particular version of it, so I can't tell you anything. However, that area is also covered in one of the optional questions. Lecture number 8 talked about software defect testing and the concept of the defect. So what is meant by a component level testing? Component level testing now. Integration testing. What are some challenges with finding and fixing software defects or bugs? What is the difference between validation and verification? How are some issues in regard? What are some issues in how? I should say, what are some issues in regards to these concepts? And how are some issues? I guess, what are some of these issues in terms of these concepts? Software defect testing is one of those things that applies to every one of the exams. It's one of the common questions. And I can read you the question here, actually, because this one's not going to give it away. What is true about regression testing? I can't give you the rest of it. So you got to know what regression testing is referring to. Some of the components related to that. And there is an all of the above on that too, just to confuse you even more. And regression testing, if you don't know, is done after fixing defect, and it's part of defect testing. Different form. Yeah, testing already tested components. Going back through and making sure you haven't had a dominoes effect occur. So you fixed this module over here, but this one broke. We didn't even touch this one. But if you come back through and regression testing goes through it and runs all of the previous tests on even the areas that weren't modified to make sure you haven't implemented a defect when you fixed the defect. So it definitely is needed. People don't do enough regression testing, actually. Questions about software defect testing. Testing for defects, testing after you've fixed a defect, different types of tests. A lot of that is in the unit testing category as well. Defects in units. All right, if not, I'll move right along. Lo and behold, we entered into lecture number 9. We are getting to the end of this. So lecture number 9 looked at software cost estimations. And how are you going to figure out how much a software project will cost to create? Remember in lecture number 9 I talked about estimating resources, estimating time, estimating the cost. Yeah. So what are some of the techniques used in costing, selecting, allocating available resources, determining the resources that will be needed? What is a function point and a function point analysis? Remember we had object points and we had function points in that lecture? What are some of the estimation techniques? You don't have to know the Cosimo model. Cosimo. That's a place. Cosimo Grill. No, that's a song. Cosimo. You don't have to know the Kokomo or the Cosimo or the Cocoa Puffs model. You don't have to know anything about the cocoa. But it is delicious. Well, I don't like the cocoa. I prefer the coffee. All right, what do we have on software testing? No, not software testing. Estimations. That is one of the core questions categories. Let's see. And I know I've given you more than 5 of the core categories already. Wow, there's a question on node coverage criterion. You guys even know what that is? Node coverage criterion. That's a freebie. Well, that's going to be in the testing lecture. In fact, that's going to come out of... that is actually going to come out of lecture 7. In the software testing strategies, one of the strategies is to get full full coverage. It talks about nodes and the different ways of creating abstract trees to traverse through the different paths to make sure that you can actually get through each one of the different paths of the program. And I just happened to notice the word node coverage criterion ended up in one of the questions. I don't see. What was I looking for? I was looking at costing, wasn't I? I thought that was one of the cores. However, I'm now seeing that it isn't. I don't have a question on that concept in this particular version of the exam. I do. Oh. In terms of software evaluation, the function point is going to tell us ... Software evaluation, function point tells us complexity. That's not one of the answers, but it tells us, what we do with function points, we add up how many we have. We have more function points, we have more testing that's going to have to be done, we have more time that's going to need to take, we have more complexity in general, more integration issues. So think about all of the different things that are related to a function point. Think about what a function point actually represents in terms of it. And it's not a function per se, but it can be a function, but it's not normally thought of that way in terms of the abstraction. So a function point is a countable unit, a class, a module, a package. It's a in fact, read through the function point analysis stuff and get a good, better explanation of that as well. And that wasn't even, that was part of this function point analysis here. It helps us also with costing to figure out what it's going to cost in terms of the implementation time, expenses. Any questions on software cost estimations, lecture number 9? 9? No, this is 9, that's why I said 9. No? All right, lecture number 10. We are getting towards the end there. I just covered 11 today, I think.
What are you going to give from 11?
I'm sorry?
What are you going to give from 11?
That comes after 10. You want me to do 11 first and come back to 10? All right, number 10. Know the overview of the object model and the class model as it relates to object-oriented design and reuse. You want to know what software reuse is. You want to know what component reuse is. That's why I did that lecture number 11. It gets in the concept of reuse in terms of what the object model, how the object model defines it, how the component level reuse is established. Components are not necessarily objects, they're separated pieces of the code. You also want to look at what is the architectural design. And this works into assignment number 4 that dealt with this concept. So assignment number 4 dealt with the concept of the architectural design. That was the water pump for the mine shaft. What concepts are presented in the architectural design? Why create one? What purpose does it serve in the development process? So everything you ever wanted to know about architectural design is going to be in lecture number 10. Will also be part of lecture number 11 in terms of the concept. There's about 4 questions on here. I can't read you the one I'm looking at now. There's a question that specifically says software architectural design in the question. There's one that says design pattern in the question. There's one that says UML diagram in the question. Module interfaces in the question. Module coupling in the question. That's what I said. When I went back and I looked at this, I went, wow, there's a heavy focus on architectural design and components. I better cover that lecture. The architectural design, again. Modular decomposition is also mentioned in a question. That's a lot. That's a heavy focus. That's a lot of questions. There's more questions on architectural design than there is on anything else, I think, in this entire package here. Any questions on the concept of the architectural design as it pertains to lecture 10? Repeat. Software architectural diagram. Design pattern. UML diagram. Module interfaces. Module coupling. Node coverage, but I gave you that one already. But that's a different category of questions. I think architecture, what is it? Missing one.
Design diagram.
Design pattern is in one of the questions. UML diagram. I think I missed one here. Module interfaces, module coupling. Oh, there it is. Architectural design. These are just buzzwords that are in the questions. I can't read you any of those questions. Really look at lectures number 10 and 11 as well. And some of the other ones might actually be helpful to you. Some of the ones that, no, actually they're not going to be helpful. I'll show you which ones are optional. Those are going to be on distributed system designs, client server designs. They're different domain-specific architectural designs. Those are the lectures I didn't cover. Any more questions on the lecture number 10? Lecture number 11, we just went, so it's fresh. The concept of software reuse. Why is reuse important? What is accomplished by the object-oriented design approach? What are the different types of reuse? I'd focus on the types of reuse. What is the model view controller? That's one of the weird questions that only shows up on one. It's one of the oddball questions. And the same thing is true for what are some of the concepts and issues related to the commercial off-the-shelf product reuse. Those are miscellaneous. Those are kind of the miscellaneous questions. of the 20 odd ones that you might get. And let's see what we got on here. I don't have any reuse questions on here. Neither one of them show up on this version. I don't have any samples for you. Nope. Fresh out of reuse. But I just covered that lecture. I don't know if any of it, if you have any questions on that or not. Going back to lecture 12A, I covered the software architectural design. That was number 11. Excuse me, number 10 was on object-oriented, and I covered that first. And then I went to 12A second, and I skipped 11. And 12A was the concept of the modular decomposition models. And as I mentioned before, the word modular decomposition shows up in one of the questions. And including data flow, object models, the concept of domain-specific architectural models, the client-server to peer-to-peer. I'm not going to ask you about a specific domain-specific model. It's weird, a specific domain-specific. The abstraction over the application domain. 12B would be a good supplemental reading, although I didn't cover it in class. 13 on distributed architectures is also good reading, although no questions will be asked about distributed architectural systems. Nothing about domain-specific systems. But the concept of the architectural design and the concept of the modular decomposition models. And that was actually covered in 10 or 11. No, 11 was what I just covered today. 10. It was probably covered in 10. There's some of it towards the beginning part when I start looking at the decomposition of the system in terms of the different models in number 11. But again, it's just some of it's good reading, but don't be concerned with specific questions. There's nothing on distributed systems. There's nothing on client server, peer-to-peer, or any of those other things. There's also nothing on agile software development, which was lecture number 14. You don't have to worry about 16 or 17 either. Lecture number 16 was on embedded. If you're interested in these topics, you're more than welcome to download and take a look at them. It's great supplemental reading. I didn't get that far, so sometimes I get that far, sometimes I don't. It depends on how the cards play. This particular class I didn't, so I'm not going to cover it. Know the concept of component-based software engineering as discussed in other lectures and the one that we covered today. Also some questions on that. So lecture number 15 covers the topic as well. It's a good supplemental reader, however, it didn't cover number 15, the component definitions and terminology. You don't need to know. You do not need to know about component-based software engineering concepts either in terms of all of the technical frameworks, model view controller, and the concept of the component-based software engineering. We brushed the surface of describing what it was. Obviously, I did not get into all of the details, and the lecture doesn't even cover all of the methodology-related details to the development process. You could take an entire course on component-based software development. Entirely different methodologies used, entirely different approach to development. Save that for another course, specialized course in software engineering, component-based development. That would actually be a good course to teach here. But the lecture itself that I went over wasn't part of 15. 15 actually gets into those concepts in a lot more detail. You don't need to know that. All you're only responsible is up to lecture number 11 that I covered today, which gives you the basic definition of it. There are no questions on the exam with the word component-based software engineering. It's all of the architectural, the concept of the component, yes. And the modular decomposition, yes. In terms of the architectural design and the way that we're patterning out the design patterns that we're using to create the software application architecture, essentially. Questions? Yes? I'm sorry?
Example on component.
I told you there's no component-based software engineering questions. Huh? You don't have to worry about that concept. It's not on the exam. The concept of the component is. And let me find, well, module coupling is going to be a question in which is going to, looking at intercomponent connections. There's a question on module coupling, which gets into the modules and components. Let's see if there's anything else on this particular version. Nope. I've run out of questions, actually. I think I've given you most of them. Just taking a quick brief look to see if I've missed anything. Modular interfaces. I mentioned that, I think, already, though, in terms of a buzzword. Here's an interesting, I'll read you this question. This is your bonus question for staying. Module interfaces should not reveal how the module is implemented because A, B, C, D, whoa, there's an E. None of the above. One more time. Module interfaces, for those of you guys writing this down, should not reveal how the module is implemented. Should not reveal how the module is implemented because, so the interface doesn't reveal how it's implemented because, and that's out of the lecture 10, I think it is. None of the above is one of your options as well. I think that went above and beyond the level of questioning I should tell you about. And this is actually an easy exam, so I'm expecting everyone to ace it. However, not quite done yet. If there is a question that everybody misses, I know which one it's going to be too. If there is a question that everybody misses, I will throw the question out. So you don't have to worry about it. If you think it's a hard question that you shouldn't have to answer, then if a majority of the class, more than 50% of the class misses it, then I'll throw it out. So I curve it, is what I'm saying. But I pretty much think that the exam is one of the most straightforward exams I've ever created. So it's not like the Oracle exam. That one is just nasty. That one's just nasty. I'm not trying to comfort you now. If we don't have any more questions, we are actually done for today. This was our last class. Next week is our final. Bring a pen or a pencil with you. No notes, no internet. The Verizon network cannot follow you. No cell phones either. Because I know what people used to do is they text message all the answers to themselves and they go in the middle of the exam. You see them scrolling down. No, not this one. No, not that. What does that mean again? No, can't do this. So don't do that either. All right, we're done. You can also email me questions if you have questions between now and next Wednesday. And you don't have to have everything turned in by next Wednesday. May 9th is the last day for everything. Except for the midterm that is due this weekend. 17th. Okay, bye. Good luck. Hasta la vista.